Seriously. But here's the thing. 8s don't need to add anything to become more loving, trusting, or open. It's already there. They just need to reconnect with their heart and remember how much they actually care about people. Kids and pets are usually the ones who easily sneak past the 8's defenses. Like, I don't know, I can be all tough and mighty out in the world, but the second I'm around my cats, I'm just a different person. But the kids and pets, they bring out this protective instinct that says, you're just so small and little and innocent, and I will destroy anybody who messes with you. It's beautiful and terrifying all at once. It's just chaos. But to really embrace that big-heartedness, 8s have to do something scarier than leading armies or starting businesses. They gotta trust. Trust something beyond their own grit and control. And that means lowering the walls that they've spent a lifetime building, because underneath all that armor, there's still that sensitive little kid who decided, I'll never get hurt again. And that part never really dies. It just waits for permission to come out and breathe again. Okay. And when 8s integrate onto this side, they become incredible leaders. The kind who lead with both power and compassion. They have respect for people's boundaries and their own personal limits as well. They start realizing that rest isn't weakness, it's wisdom. They work hard, but they also know when it's time to eat something that's not just a protein bar and then actually relax. They choose things that restore them instead of just chasing the next adrenaline spike or overindulging, right? And when that happens, their strength becomes magnetic, not intimidating. Okay. So next segment. We should have a little swoosh, little sound effect. But so like every type, there's a shadow side. This is where it can get scary for people. For the 8s anyway, or the opposite. Anyway, so imagine an 8 in a relationship. I'm about to expose myself here. Their partner can say something like, hey, I feel like you're not really hearing me. And the type 8 will respond something like this. They'll go, oh, I hear you. I just don't agree. Boy, the times I've busted out that. When a type 8 is pressed, they might just shut down emotionally. Not because they don't care, okay? But because emotional exposure feels like walking into a battlefield unarmed, right? Which is true. I tend to shut down personally versus just exploding with rage. My rage comes out in other areas of my life in a healthy way. Put a pin in that, because we got to talk about the 8's anger problems. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. So it's not that 8s don't have feelings. It's that their feelings are so intense, hence the rage. They keep them locked behind a steel door with a do not enter sign, right? So when 8s feel unsafe or betrayed, their protective instincts can turn into control instincts, right? They might get domineering, aggressive, even more confrontational, and they push instead of connect. And all that beautiful strength that's meant to protect and help others can start to hurt the people around them. And at their worst, they be bulldozing. Hello, daddy issues. Oh, geez. Yeah, my dad's an 8, like I said, but don't worry, we're not opening that can of worms right now. But their truth-telling becomes steamrolling. Their leadership becomes my way or the highway, okay? But what is really going on underneath all that? This is where curiosity really needs to come in. And with anything, if you're in a disagreement with no matter what type they are, curiosity is a game changer in those moments. So, moving on. What's really going on underneath all that steamrolling and bulldozing and my way or the highway? For the 8, it's usually fear, okay? Fear of being weak, fear of being blindsided, fear of depending on someone who could just let them down. And instead of admitting the fear, because that's vulnerable, they double down on power. 8s move through life with this deep instinct to protect themselves, which can quietly morph into a fear of depending on anyone, right? For an 8, needing help can feel like losing power, like you've just handed someone the keys to your emotional fortress. So they go into battle mode, always ready for resistance. Life starts to feel like one long wrestling match with people, systems or traffic lights, which is so counterintuitive because the more you're ready for resistance, the more you're going to get it. Think about that. But as long as the 8s are calling shots, they can breathe. But the kicker is like nobody's actually self-sufficient, okay? Even the most independent of 8s, they need people to build, to grow, and to thrive. And if an 8 could actually step back and look at their life objectively, they'd probably see that they're already deeply connected to and dependent on a lot of people. But that realization can trigger their 2 big fears. And what are those? Dependency and betrayal. So instead of acknowledging it, they double down on the I'll just do it myself narrative and end up shouldering everything. Oh, what's that character, the Disney one, Encanto? What's her name? The super strong one. That's such a really, really beautiful depiction of what we're talking about right here. How she's just like carrying everything and like she's just really tired at the end of the day and scared of being weak. Ugh, that one got me. But I just went off script there. But yeah, so they end up shouldering everything, the type 8. They convince themselves they're the only ones pulling the weight and that if just others worked as hard as they did, the world would run a lot smoother. Now let's talk about boundaries, okay? Because that word might as well be tattooed on the bicep of every single type 8. Boundaries are their oxygen. Like, I am not joking. 8s love straight talk and get suspicious the second someone starts sugarcoating something, beating around the bush. And when other types start tiptoeing around feelings, 8s are like, bruh, spit it out already. Land the plane. Meanwhile, other people are usually often stunned by how blunt we can be, but that intensity is really about safety here. They need to know where the lines are. That's and what's okay, what's not okay, where you end, and where they can begin. And trust me, please trust me on this, 8s figure out boundaries the hard way by pushing them. It's not personal. It's just data collection. Okay, please understand that. They test the limits to see how strong the connection is, right? If I'm in a relationship, I love, in a way, it sounds really toxic, but going toe to toe with somebody on something deepens my connection with them. Because I'm like, can they really stand up to this? Do they have a little heart of their own? Can they muscle this around? That's what the 8 does. This is one of the harder lessons I have learned in my life and still struggle with from time to time. I thought that being open about, like, I would tell people, hey, I need to ask you certain questions, what I thought were the right questions, so I know where your boundaries are. And I would be very explicit and clear. And so I'm asking what I thought were the right questions to figure out where this line is. But they often, one, didn't know or thought it was some other thing. So they may have answered my question, but realized they were wrong because I found it for them. It gets me in trouble so much. At least it did in the past. But that's the 8 way. We find out where the line is by accidentally stepping over it. So for my non-8 listeners, pro tip, find the strength, please find it somewhere in you to be equally as direct with them.